Here we're behind the scenes talking about our mommies.
Yeah.
But we're on. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're viewing from. This is Laura Thompson and Neka Cleaver, Miss Laura and Miss Neka. And
There you
we're
go.
on today to talk about the things Mama said. And so it's a delight to come on with Nika because she's a professional, and she's got a lot of mommy stories, just like I do. Both of our moms have passed away, but they still live on inside our hearts,
Yes.
and we
And
can.
our faces, because we look like our moms too. So
Right,
I'm very happy that I look like my mommy.
right. I was saying, is that Nika? Is that Nika or her mom on that picture? They look just alike, just
Yeah.
twins.
Yeah.
So I've been practicing. I've been watching like Jennifer Hudson and having different people come on, and they're all poised. And I've been trying to kind of get a little bit more poised in my presentation, but I can't because I'm just me. So I'm just gonna be
Well,
Miss
I'm gonna
Laura.
tell you this: with the invention of social media, especially TikTok and things like that, that platform, you actually get further the more you are yourself. I think Facebook is more professional. People try to be more professional. It's an older crowd that's on there.
Hmm.
Sorry, guys, we're old folks on Facebook, but so people try to be a little bit more professional. On the TikTok side, you can wake up out your sleep and just go live and start selling, doing whatever. And I think that it has garnished the acceptance of people just being them, who they are,
Right.
and I love that.
I
I
love
love.
TikTok. I can't watch one. I get upset when I look at TikTok and I see a little clip or a little segment of something that I like, and then I can't find the part two and part three, and I'm like, man, what happened? What happened? And so
Well, let me
it
tell you,
is.
Mama said, don't be listening to TikTok because TikTok the devil.
I know. Mama said, girl, they've just gone. She would have said they've just gone too far. Whenever it was something new.
My mom would have been like, I ain't messing with that mess. I don't want to mess with that mess. Like, she was so great.
Wow. So there's a great contrast between a mom of six and a mom of one, and being
Absolutely.
in a family of siblings competing for mom's attention. And so, what is the most famous thing that you remember that your mom would tell you?
So it's not even that what she told me. Well, because there's a lot of them, but what I will never forget is what she called me when she
Mm,
told me something. So anytime she wanted to tell me something that I need to fix or whatever, she would always call me Charlie Brown. Listen
mm.
here, Charlie Brown. Listen here, Charlie. I was like, why are you calling me Charlie Brown? She said, well, if you was going to be a boy, you was going to be named So I just knew when she said Charlie Brown or something that I'd either done something wrong, she was trying to tell me something, correct me on something, or whatever. The craziest thing, Charlie. I'm Charlie if I was a dude.
Oh, okay. So audience, we could start calling Nika Charlie.
Only when I do something wrong,
Right. Hey, Charlie.
which means you might be calling me that all the time. I'm just like,
And so I was always into stuff, always trying to, I mean, since a little kid, just always working on some project. And so, or, I didn't get in a lot of trouble in school, but just kind of just hanging out in the back of the room when everybody else was doing their work because I was finished. It was easy shit. So, I just finished early. And so, my mom's favorite thing was, uh, child, I don't know what you gonna do now. And so whenever I got into something,
I think I heard her say that a couple of times.
right, right, she
I
said, I don't
think
know
I
what, because I was always starting something, and then I get stuck, and I knew that she really couldn't help me. She was an educator. I think your mom was an educator as well.
She was. Yep.
But she couldn't help me because she didn't, she just said, like, when you grow up, you're gonna be a teacher, a social worker, go to work. And so
Mhm.
I had entrepreneurial questions, and so she couldn't help me. And then when I would get stuck, that's when she would say, "Child,
Okay, I don't know what you gonna
I
do.
don't know, I don't know what you gonna do now." Or she would tell me, if she didn't want to say that, she'd say, "Well, just keep the faith." And so
My dad, well, my mom would. So my mom would always, if she didn't know the answer, of course, ask your daddy. Go tell your daddy.
hmm
She just switched that right on to daddy. Um, and I will say that I remember the most because my dad was probably more of the disciplinary person in the house. So my
hmm
mom was the one that always came in to tell me that they still loved me.
right. You still
She
can't do
she
it, but
she made me rest assured. Don't worry, we're not giving you up. I know he said he was going to change the locks. We're not.
that is too funny. That is
So
too funny.
she would always be the one to be like, "No, we love this is called discipline." Da, 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 da. So she was the nice one. So she never cursed.
Right,
She never really spoke bad about people at all.
right,
Um, Very soft spoken, So if she did get razzled, then I knew it was serious because my mom had a very cool head about
right.
herself.
My mom didn't curse either. Believe it or not, with 6 kids and 5 girls,
Yeah, for real.
she, she didn't curse. But we had the back and forth mommy daddy thing too. I would ask my mom, and her answer was no, but she didn't want to say no. So she
Right.
said, "Go ask your daddy." And so I would ask him, daddy's girl, and he was saying, "Well, go ask your mama." And I said, "Well, she said no." And he said, "Well, go ask her again." So he taught me to, go back and forth. So I would go back to her and say, "Mama, can I go to the party?"
Yeah.
And she said, "Didn't I tell you to go ask your daddy?" And I said, "Well, he told me to
Me to come
come and
ask
ask
you.
you." And she said, "Well, go back and ask your daddy." And so I would end up, she would send me back to my dad every time. And then he would say yes. But by that time, the party was almost over. And so
You
he
get
was,
that
oh,
last 30 minutes. Well, that's funny because I mean, just a quick on dads, because that's my mom never cursed, but my dad always cursed. So I
oh,
think that's why my
wow.
mom never cursed because it was like it would be just too much cursing. Because my dad used the F word as an explanation point and the S word as a period. So it was just
Right.
cursing all the time. But she was really good. She never did. That surprised me. But that's funny.
Wow. Well, my dad, and I know we're talking about my mom, but our moms, but my dad he said, okay, you can go to the party, go get dressed. So it's like, by the time I get dressed, it's like 9:30. So I go to the party, I go in with my friends. My friends knew my cursing dad, and they knew, that they better not mess with Laura.
Right.
So I go in the party dancing, and then he would drive up. He would drive around the block a couple of times and then drive up because my curfew was at 10. So
But you
he
got there at 9:30? Oh yeah,
yeah,
you didn't have
well,
no time.
but he would say, okay, well, we let you go to the party. So he would have one of my siblings in the car with him, and they say, "There she is." Or either he would send them in to get me, or they would sit in the car, and they would say, "Oh, the guys would say, there's Mr. Thompson, there's Mr. Thompson." So he would pick me up, and I'm like, "I just got here." He said, "Look, your curfew's at 10 o'clock. You got to go to the party." And so then I cried to my mom, and she was saying, "Child, you know how your
I don't know
daddy is."
what you go. Look, I don't
I
know
don't
what
know
you gonna do.
what you gonna do now. And so those are her two favorite things. I don't know what you gonna do now, and keep the faith.
And keep the faith. Yeah.
And
My
so
mom was. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, baby.
no, go ahead. Well, she was
No,
just, she taught me to figure stuff out basically for myself by saying, "Child, I don't know what you gonna do," and I'm like, "Shit, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna get this done. I don't know how, But if Mama don't know, I'm gonna have to figure it out myself. So,
You know what's crazy is what you even saying that, like parents, period, but moms, dads, for me being an only child, like all I needed was their approval to do
mhm.
anything in life. I don't care what it is. If they told me it was okay to rob a bank, I would tell the police. But mama said I
Right,
can do it. You know what I'm saying? But they were my I mean, you got God, but of course they were my is it okay? And they gave me all my strength, all my confidence, all my everything, just by their love, protection, and discipline. But they
right,
always push me to, be the best me that I could be. Um, but my mom was just so darn loving. She was just always
right. Well, my mom was nice, but I think I got on her last nerve because I didn't have any boundaries. It's like, can I go to? Sometimes I would sneak out the window to go to a party. She didn't want me to wear certain types of clothes. I didn't know why then because she let my other sisters wear it, but I was a little shapely, and so she wouldn't let me wear certain clothes, but I would sneak and wear them anyway.
there.
And if she would catch me, man, my little hairstyle was gone. She would get my little ponytails and didn't I tell you another thing she would say is I told you over and over and over and over again. And so I kind of felt sorry for her too, because my dad passed away when I was 17. And so she was stuck with all these girls and a son. And so
Hmm.
I don't know how she did it, but she managed to, you know, there were five of us in college at the same time
Ooh,
and one in the military. So she was able to do all that. She was a teacher and she worked in summer programs and she was known by all the kids in the community and parents. So we really couldn't do too much.
couldn't do too much. Yeah, that's for sure. Those are the
And
good old days when your neighbors caught you in the mall and said, "Do your parents know you here?" Because I'm about to tell them as soon as
I
we
say
get back
yes,
to the house.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wasn't a liar, but I wasn't. I would say yes, ma'am. She knows, but she would know because when I got home, I would be questioned. So how was
yeah.
school today?
And there
Oh,
was no cell phones then. So how they
right.
got to them before we got home,
I
whatever. They had
know.
a car, we didn't, but they always got to our parents before we did. So
I know it. I'm like, that is too crazy.
I,
Uh,
you know, crazy is I remember my mom. My mom was a very good example for me as a woman. My dad, of course, was insane. So he always was like, you want to be this type of woman, so a man will take you home to their mother, right? And he was very big on that. Of course, my dad was the bad one, so he didn't want me to be like the girls that he loved growing up. Okay.
right.
He wanted me to be the
Because
opposite of that.
he
So
knew.
he would
Yeah.
always be in my ear. But my mom never really said a lot until I got older. I realized why. My mom
Mhm.
didn't do nothing. She didn't know no. She didn't have no stories. She didn't sneak out the house. She was valedictorian of high school and college. She this is probably too much information, but my daddy was her, you know what I'm saying? That was her
Everything.
first love, her first everything. You know what I'm saying? So she didn't know that other side. So she was like, "Sneak out the house. Who knew that?
Right. I know, right. She said,
Boyfriend? What's that? Like, we don't do that. You wait till you're 18. Wait till you go to college to find your man. That's what I did." So she was very much a conservative thinker because
mhm.
she didn't do nothing when she was growing up. She straight A's all her entire life, and she was one of 11 kids, and she was the youngest. So
Oh,
didn't talk
wow.
that much, stayed down in the books, read everything, which hence her education background. Which before she passed away, she was going for her doctorate. So, it's just hilarious. So literally, if I got in trouble, it was my mom's first time seeing anything against the rules. You know what?
Wow. Yeah, my mom was something else. She would, you didn't have this problem because you were the only child, but uh, she would get frustrated with one of us, or she would need one of us for something, in an emergency or really, really quick. And she knew who she wanted to pick, but she couldn't remember our names. So she would say, Laura, I mean, Carolyn, Sophie, Clint, and so, we knew who she was talking about, but we act like we didn't because she called everybody's name.
Everybody's
She
name
said,
but the wrong person.
I know,
Well, I told you already, baby. I still got that. I was Charlie.
I know,
Who's
right?
Charlie?
So I said, and sometimes it would be me, and I'm like, she said, you know who I'm talking about? Get over here. And I'm like, you didn't say my name. Would you know who I was talking about? So,
Say,
so
I'm not coming. You just say my name, I'm not coming. Mm-mm.
right, especially if it's some work, because I wasn't a housework person. I
Oh, me either.
and I didn't realize that I was supposed to do stuff around the house. I really didn't. We would have to wash dishes, and so my mom made this rule that if you missed a night washing dishes, well, we had to wash for a week, and so that meant that every month and a half you would have to wash dishes. I had to wash them for a month because she said if you miss a day, then you're gonna add on another week. So shoot, I didn't care. I watched a little bit, watched TV, had a snack, and so and we had to have them done by a certain time. So I didn't have them done, but I knew what the consequences were gonna be. So I said, shit, I'm just gonna take my time. And so she
And
would
you ended
she
up
would
watching dishes for a whole month because you just kept
I
taking
know,
breaks.
right? So everybody else was
Oh
like,
my
cool.
gosh.
Shoot. So she'll come in with her hand on her hip and just nicely say, you have another week, right? And I'd say, okay. Or I'd try to cry. I could cry to my dad, but my mom wasn't having that. She was like, girl, I told you over and over and over. And I didn't have boundaries, and I have a few boundaries now more than I did, but I didn't as a kid. I didn't get in major trouble, but I was always creating stuff
Right.
outside of the outside of the box, and so I would get in trouble for some of that stuff.
I got
But
in trouble all the time, but I felt like my trouble was good trouble, but not really. They used to call, I remember getting in trouble because there was fences. I went to a private school. I was the only black person there in my whole like middle school, right? So there was cages that blocked in the gym that we kept all of our stuff so they could lock them up, right? Nobody can steal anything.
mm,
So some girl left her like math book or something in the cage and the people were gone. So I climbed the cage and got her math book. Now I'm in trouble. You solved her problem.
I know,
What do
right?
you mean I'm a problem solver? I am not a troublemaker. She needs her math book to do her homework. Nobody was around. I got her math book. So my mom she just used to shake her. I'm gonna tell you what my mom used to do. She wouldn't say, I told you over and over again. She would do this.
And you knew that hurt more than us saying something.
Every time. Every time. And another time I got in trouble in school because I was 15 years old and this girl needed to move her car. She was a sophomore. So she had a car. She had to move the car from the front lot to the back lot because we both played tennis. I don't know what happened, why she couldn't move it. I was like, well, my daddy done taught me how to drive. I'll move it. So I
Uh,
move it. The teachers catch me. They call my parent or they tell me, and I say, well, look, my dad done taught me how to drive a car. She needed her car moved. Again, problem solver.
trying to help, and get in
I'm
trouble.
not
No good.
around here. And here goes my mom in the office.
Yeah, but my mom, she protected me though if I would get in, because I was always outspoken. People, and I was like a problem solver too. People would say, "Okay, well, let's ask Laura." I was trained to do that because my mom made me do everybody's homework. If they didn't do it, oh, you're a good writer, and they need this turned in the morning, and well, why I got to do it? after they've been playing, look, just do that, just do it.
Just do it.
So it
Just
was
do it.
out. So I was always the one that had to do homework because Mama said, "You know, you're my smartest daughter." No, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. I don't want
I
to
don't
do it.
want to hear it. That's what I want to hear.
So I was always the one to call on for that. But if I got in trouble at school, she knew I was, going to be honest about what happened. If I really did something, she would know it, and if I didn't do something, she'd know it.
She would know it.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that my mom used to say all the time too. If I answered anything too quick, she would be like, you lying. You answered that too quick. That would be, and she always said that. And I'd be like, Nika, did you do this? Uh-huh. Mm-mm. You answered that too quick.
No, you
You
didn't.
lying. I'd be like, what are you asking the question? Nah,
Yeah, mamas were something else. So what do you miss most about your mom?
Oh man. So many things. I think I miss just being able to talk to her
Mhm.
as an adult, because she passed away. I was like 18, something like
Wow.
that. And I remember that we were just now starting to have those grown up mom and daughter conversations and ask her
Hmm.
about boys and, that kind of thing. I remember when she was passing away and I was sitting next to her in the hospital and I was kind of like, Mom, I don't want you to go. I'm not married yet. You have to still tell me about this. I don't have this yet. I don't know this yet. And but then I had to like be like, it's okay, it's okay. Don't the whole thing. But that was like my biggest thing. Those little questions, those little like prime example, fibroids. I know men are like, what the heck? But let's talk about it. Like I did when I got fibroids, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know. And it was something that was embarrassing, right? You don't
Hmm.
think that you could just talk to other people. Is that happening to other people too? If I would have had my mommy, I would have been able to call. She would have explained. She would have calmed me down. And I wouldn't have had to go to Facebook talking about what's fibroids,
Right.
but like stuff like that to where intimate things that you don't just want to ask anybody, but you can always go and call mom. And more than likely, she might have been through it too, so she can give you some guidance on it. I miss that, and I miss just being able to call my mama and hang out because she was such a delight. And I used to love taking pictures and be like, "Look how much I look like my mom," and all
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. So I wish I would have could have continued that growing a relationship with her as an adult.
Wow. Well, my mom was always going somewhere. She was always busy. She loved to dress. Um,
She did.
got her hair done every week, nails done every week, just immaculate. Would lay her clothes out every day,
Wow.
for what she was going to wear, whether it was just something casual or whatever. She was just immaculate. She hated my braids or my afro. All of my natural hair. I had natural hair, or I would cut all my hair off. Um, when I was in college, I came home and was bald, except for a little bit. I was probably the first person that I knew in San Antonio to come home from school with my hair cut really really short. So she didn't really. She always wanted me to dress up and be prissy like her, and would get my hair done. And I did go through a phase where I did get my hair done every week, but I didn't know how to do it and maintain it. So, and I like the braids, so I always
Mhm.
kept something natural that I could maintain. And so
Can I
she,
tell you that that was my thing too? Because my mom got her hair done every work week in Kirby. After I pass by it now, I'll be like, oh, and I just remember weekly we would go get it done. I always had my hair done. As soon as my mom passed away, that's when I got this weave because I don't know, baby.
right? Yeah, I hated to go to the hair salon because I didn't like to sit in the dryer.
Yeah,
Uh,
me too. I hated the dryer.
so we used to go to this lady's house, Miss Mitchell. As a matter of fact, her her grandson is a friend of yours. I forgot his name, but he's a friend of yours. Um, but we used to go to her house and be over there for hours and hours and hours and hours.
Her
Cause
name
we got
wasn't Yvonne, was it?
it was
Oh,
a
okay.
she was a
I'm about to
she was
say,
a,
girl, if we had the same hairdresser growing up, I'm about to.
oh no, I went to Miss Yvonne too. Yeah, I went to Miss Yvonne.
You went to Miss Yvonne
Yeah, I love her.
off of Kirby? Or
Yeah,
she might have moved at that time, but
no, it was in she. I went to. Well, I don't know if it was in Kirby. It wasn't Kirby.
it
Yeah, but I
wasn't Kirby.
her they
Yes,
went to her
you went
mom
to
went
Miss
to our
Yvonne's.
yeah her mom went to our church.
Dog, that's
Yes.
mind blowing to me. Miss Yvonne was one of the hottest hairdressers
Oh
out
yeah.
there.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
for the black community, the upper echelons went to her. And so now I see why your mom didn't like the short hair or because Miss Yvonne would either put them perms in or lay that hair so freaking fly that it was
Hmm.
ridiculous. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
She
Oh
did my
girl,
first.
I can't
She did
believe
my
you went to Miss Yvonne. That is
yeah.
crazy.
She did my first bob. But she wouldn't. I saw her a few years ago, and I said, Miss Yvonne, do my hair. And she was like, No, I only do certain people. I said, Oh, okay.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
said, I have
yeah.
certain
Well,
regulars.
and I am friends with her son, that
Oh,
he comes to some events and stuff, but I remember him being at the shop when he was 3 and 4 years old, so he a grown man with kids now too, so wow, that's crazy, that's
yeah,
crazy.
Miss Yvonne. I've gone to Miss Yvonne. I went to Philip a little bit. I don't think I went to Andrea. I don't know. But
Wait,
Philip,
Philip, 24/7 Philip?
no, he 20. No, that's 24/7. I was Dennis is 24/7.
Okay, because he's still out there
But
too doing the dang thing.
yeah, but Dennis, Philip, Andrea, Miss Yvonne, they were the top stylists in the city for a long time.
Yes, they were. Yes, they
Yeah,
were.
and so I
That's
had to say,
crazy. No, I was kid, so I
mhm,
don't know, I just knew that's where my mama went, and for my entire life growing up, so I went to college. I went to
right?
Miss
Wow, I love
Mhm.
Miss Yvonne's. Uh, so so yeah, my mom, she wanted my hair to be just immaculate because I still do have really nice hair under here, believe it or not, long hair, and but I just didn't ever learn how to maintain it, and I just like the the natural look. I'm a raw kind of person, and so I'm not polished and poised and all of that, and I just like to be me, and she wanted me to be her, I guess, or like her, or
Right.
to look a certain way. And her and my dad would always buy me all of these cute little dresses, which is cool. I like dresses because I like the heels and all that, but I just
So
didn't
I
like.
think that I have to go into modeling at some point in time. I'm gonna have to be like a 50 plus model, because my mom wanted me to be a model. She never said it, but I remember falling on my butt one time with them wooden sand slippers. I don't remember the wooden slippers with the leather things. I had some white hair, loved them. Fell on my noggin and had a big old bump. And my mom was like, "Oh no, we gotta fix that so you can be a model." And she would always say stuff about me being a model. And so I was like, you know what? I think she secretly wanted me to model. So I'm gonna have to
I
find me a
know she
50 plus
probably, yeah, yeah.
modeling agency.
The teacher, my mom, she wanted me to be a model too. She took me to Barbizon, and she was going to turn me into this girly girl, but they said I was too
Mhm.
short, so they didn't accept me into the program.
Yeah.
So she was like heartbroken. She said, "We're gonna." She said, "Well, she wears heels and blah 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 blah." And they said, mm-mm. "She's only 5'3". You have to be 5'6" and up." And so I missed that little mark. But I didn't want to be a model, anywho, mama. But I got really, me and my mom used to go to all the events together, because she loved to go to events and dress up. So I would go to her events, or she would, I would take her to my events. And so she really, really loved that. She liked sitting on the front row and bragging to her friends about this, my daughter. Um, but I really, really got to know uh, her in the last couple of years of her life.
Mhm.
I realized she had a sense of humor, and where I was thinking she was a certain way, she was pretty cool, a pretty cool
Yeah.
mom. she just never sat down long enough to really do much except she liked to party, liked to dance, was involved in, all kinds of stuff. The youth program, like your dad worked with youth when you were
Mhm.
coming up. She was active in the church. She thought she was the president of every usher board in the church.
In the church.
But she was
You can't
only
be
a
the president of
president.
every one, ma'am.
She, she once
But
she
see, I
got that,
like that though.
once,
Amazingly, you said the last few years of life, so you are very much grown. You got your own kid. You
uh,
know, you've gone through life, and it wasn't until, recently,
mhm.
that you actually got to
Oh,
know her, not
mm,
your mom. And I'm
right,
saying the actual person.
right.
That's one thing that I missed. And I learned more about my mom and my dad after their passing by
Mm,
talking to family members and friends, and they'll tell me, "Oh, your dad always did it. Your mom always did it. Your mom always said," and I'll be
mm,
like, "Oh, okay." And now it makes a little bit more sense being older, but yeah, that's one thing I wish I would have been able to do. Get to know who Doris M. Cleaver was, not
yeah,
just mama.
she was something else. She was always, and I got that from her. She would always work something out.
Yeah.
Uh, and she would always fight. Now, she would go to the doctor, and if they said she needed surgery, she was there. I'm not that girl, but she was brave. She would fight through it. When she was uh, bed bound, I really learned a lot about her. But she would try to get out of bed. She couldn't walk. She was paralyzed on one side, and she couldn't walk. So she would try to get. I would walk in to her bedroom, and she was trying to get out of the bed. And I said, "Where are you going?" And she said, "Oh shoot, I'm getting ready to get up and walk. And as soon as I can walk, I'm gonna buy me a brand new car." And I said, "Well, I'm riding with you when you get your brand new
When you get
car."
your car, absolutely,
But it
absolutely.
was just, I wouldn't. My sister, uh, she would cook for her. She took care of her until she died, but she would cook for her and feed her. And so when I would come over, I wouldn't feed her. I would get her. I would fix her plate, but I wouldn't feed her. And she's sitting there waiting. I said, "What you waiting on? You hungry? You said you were hungry, right?" "Oh, well, Irene feeds me." And I said, "Well, you're very capable of feeding yourself because that's how she raised us. You need to be, self sufficient."
Mhm.
And so she would be pissed, but she was hungry, so she would see. I said, "See, look at you. You could eat." I said, "I will help you with your cup to drink, but you can feed yourself." And so she would feed herself, but she would be pissed at me. But the day before she died, I had just gotten I was getting my hair braided, and they called me, and they said, "You need to come." So I said, "I can't come because half of my hair is braided, half not. But as soon as I finish, I'll come over." So I went over, and uh, she recognized everybody, but she couldn't talk, right? So when I went over, of course, me with my braids, and I had a different style. And so she was like, I could see she wanted to say something. She raised up. Everybody that came in, she would kind of say their name or try to.
Mhm.
But when I came in, I could see her mouth moving. And then she just closed her eyes because she was just mad at me because I had the braids. So and she passed away the day before my birthday.
Oh, wow.
They told us, in hospice, they kind of give you, the medication, the pain, but they gradually taking you out too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let me tell you something. My mom, I said, all you, the Lord, my mama, the ancestors, y'all all playing jokes in there. Y'all are real funny. Because my mama passed away on 4/20. And I remember her best friend would
wow,
not come to the hospital that day. And so she would not come. She said, all of my people that I love have died on the 20th.
wow,
So if
wow,
she could make it past the 20th, then I know that she will be okay. So on the 20th, I remember my dad was on the phone. We were in the hospital. this blue light started flashing, and he was telling somebody, "Yeah, she's okay. She's doing good." And I looked at that light, and I just saw people running, and I just knew it was her. And I said, "Daddy, she's not okay." He was like, "What? What's wrong?" First time I've ever seen my dad cry. So she ends up passing away, and again, years go on, and now today, as the day comes up, 420 is also
Right.
National Marijuana Day. So see, so see what happens is this past year, 420 was um Hemp Day, my mom's passing, and
And
Easter.
Easter.
Way
Wow.
too many emotions for one person to handle in one day. I said, "Oh, I'm going back to sleep." Because Easter was the last holiday that we celebrated because when she passed, it was right after Easter. So it's like April just is a whole cloud for me,
Mm,
literally.
wow. Well, yeah, she went she had passed away by the time I got well, the day that I got my hair done and I went over, everybody just kind of people from all over the country, our relatives were kept coming into her bedroom and I'm like, why are y'all why is everybody here?
Right,
Why are y'all flying in? What's happening? They just and nobody told me that. And I guess they didn't have to, but I didn't know that all of these people, all of the family members, they had called all the family members to come in, and so it was just a trip. It was we have family from Florida. They flew in. Family from Detroit, they flew in. Family from New York, they flew in. Family from LA,
wow,
and so she was very well loved. And then different people from the community and from the church and from organizations were just they just kept coming in and out. And so the hospice nurse came in and they asked us to leave the room, gave her a shot, and then they said that she could pass tonight or 4 or 5 days from now, but no more than 4 days. I mean 5 days. So my brother-in-law is an anesthesiologist, so I asked her. So I said, they're gradually taking her out. He said, yeah, but don't say anything to any of the family members. But that's how they do it. And so with that fourth day, she passed away. It would have been the fifth day would have been my birthday,
oh wow,
and
okay,
so and my birthday was on the fifth, but she died on the fourth. And then her cousin died on the fourth, and her cousin's granddaughter was born on the fourth. So like
wow, yeah, that's God right there.
right,
That's
so within a year uh, of her cousin passing on the fourth, she passed on the fourth of the next year.
well, there's
So
nothing like losing your mom. I could definitely
yeah,
say that. And I'm gonna tell you what else really sucks. Um, After you do lose a parent or a loved one, period. But I'm gonna say mommy. Okay,
yeah,
mommy. The very next year, of course, every holiday, people are like, come to our house. Don't be by yourself. Come to the house. So the first year, I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. Now, the first year, my daddy was still alive, so it was okay. Um, but it still wasn't okay because we get into, especially like Thanksgiving, right? So now there's
mhm.
six different families in the house. Okay. My dad walks in, he goes straight to the bar. That's where I get it from. If you see me walk in a room and go straight to the bar, I got it from my daddy. Okay.
Right. So that explains
He goes
the fat
he goes
cheek.
straight to make a drink so he can deal with whatever's going on in the room, right? So what what made me angry and what made me start crying was that I kept on hearing the word mom, mom, mommy, mother, mom, the whole for 6 hours. Because if there's
Wow.
six families, that means there's six
Six months.
moms. And then there's all the kids. So every kid, they don't call daddy during Thanksgiving. No, they call mom. So I probably heard the word mom, mother, and mommy 922 times that day. And I have yet to go to people's house for Thanksgiving ever, ever, ever again.
Well, you got to face it. You got to face it.
I
One
mean,
day.
yeah, it's probably better now, but then I couldn't do it because it's like you want me to forget about the fact that my mom's gone, but I come into an atmosphere where the word mom is being said consistently the entire
Right.
time.
Wow.
So holidays and other people's families are not good for me.
Well, for years and years, but my dad passed away at 17, when I was 17. So for years and years and years and years and years, it was hard. I grieved for years and years, literally, until way into my adult life. Um, and so then my sister passed away, my oldest sister. And like 2 weeks before that, I would hear this walking, boom, 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 and the voice would say somebody's gonna die. Every for like 2 or 3 weeks, somebody's gonna die, and I didn't, to the point where I didn't want to go to sleep. And
I wouldn't
so,
either.
I'm saying, Lord, is it me? And so, of course, I didn't die. Then I said, is it my mom? Is it my son? But it would just say somebody's gonna die. And then she had to have surgery, and she had surgery, and 2 days later, we got a call at like 3 in the morning that said she died. And I'm like, okay,
Mm,
that's who it was. So, because I think because I grieved so much for my dad, that it was easier. And plus, my sister lived away from us since high school,
mhm.
so it was easier for that. But then when my mom died, she was so much older, um, and I got to know her, and I got to spend time with her, and so it wasn't as hard as the grieving part wasn't as hard. But
Yeah,
it taught me a lot more about myself after she died, and it's at a much older age. So mothers, they really, really, really impact your life, whether it's good or bad. They really, you know, mothers are like the foundation of the family. And so we just wanted to come on and talk about some of the things that Mama said, and I intentionally chose someone that has also lost their mom, just to kind of, reminisce and really, really talk about
reminisce on what my look. And Charlie Brown and Ooch. My mom used to say child too. So I'm
it.
like, I don't know if it was Ooh Child or something like after stuff went on. And she always used to say, when her biggest, I would say, insult, if you want to call it that, was calling somebody uncouth. That is
Calling
so
them what?
calling somebody uncouth.
Oh, okay.
But she called her husband uncouth all the time. Tom, that is so uncouth. Oh my goodness, Lord.
Well, I had I had a cursing dad too. When he was younger coming up, he was a bartender. Uh, so he and my mom would go out partying, and she would always vomit. And I guess I shouldn't be telling that story, but when she came home, she would and wake up in the morning with a hangover. And I said, and then she finally just stopped because that was the era where they would just drink beer,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
she just cold turkey stopped drinking it, and she was better.
My,
But
my mom's drinking daily.
I had a cursing. That Negro could curse, and then I started cursing, because it was traditional in the family to curse,
Man,
and
look,
so
dad cursed, mom didn't. But I mean, that's just
mom
what.
did right. And then she would always try to make you feel guilty, and she was saying, "Well, I don't curse," and I said, "Well, I do."
My dad put it on our
So,
ancestors. He's like, "We from Louisiana. That's what we do. That's like grammar for us." So, and then and then when my mom would be like, say my friends were over, and he would just be cussing up a storm, and she'd be like, "Thomas, language," and he would be like, "They ain't fucking paying my bills."
so Ashton, we would when he was coming up, right? He would, we'd be in the pool or something, and his friends would start cursing. He was like, "Mom, my friends are here." Stop. I mean, no, he would tell his friends, "My mom is here. Don't be cursing in front of my mom." They said, "Shit, your mom curses."
Right.
But I finally stopped. Unless I'm just playing, I finally stopped cursing. But man, I was in competition with my dad because he would say stuff. I never seen a house like this in all my life. That was his words. And I said, "We this is the only house you ever had." And he that oh, that was about the curse and the spanking. But anyway, this has been fun, Miss Nisa,
Yes,
to talk about
reminiscing
our
about
mom.
moving.
Yep, and our moms are cute. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I feel very lucky to resemble my mother. And that's another thing that I love because even though I lost her, I will say this that I am very blessed to have the relationship that I did have with her, even though I lost her soon. I would not change that. I would rather have what I had than my mom still be alive and me not have a relationship with her or me not like her or we don't talk to each other. Like that makes me angry. If your mom is still alive, what are you doing? Why are y'all not besties? Why are y'all not fine?
while y'all hanging out, right,
Just loving her, loving every bit of her, because those of us who lost our moms, we would do anything to have them back, even for 5 minutes. So,
right,
don't take advantage of your situation. And if you are not talking to your mom, hey, you be the person to bring that relationship back because when they're gone, they are gone. And so,
right. And
all
and
we can do is
they're not perfect. They
no, they're
weren't
not.
perfect. We're not perfect. I know you're not a parent, but I am. I'm not a perfect mother.
Hmm.
My mom wasn't. All of us, we kind of grew up partying, and you just don't grow into a different person necessarily. You mature,
Hmm.
but you're not perfect, and so that's what um, I like most about the relationship with my mom. She did everything for all of us. She found a way. Like see, they would say, God will make a way out of no way. Well, my mom, through God, would make a way out of no
Hmm.
way. And
Hmm.
so, she was a very busy person. She was spread, between, six kids and the community and church and all of those things. And so, I'm saying when she was on her dying bed or when she was bedridden, I think that was the most rest,
And she
that
brought
she's ever had in her life.
that part,
And
that
we
part.
were able to serve her, because she served us for, all of our lives until she died, right? We
Yeah,
could go to her and say, Mom, I need $1 million. She said, Child, I don't know what you gonna
I
do
know what you
now.
gonna do.
For real, I don't know what you gonna do now.
While my mom's over there doing this.
And you say, Mama, just cuss me out. I don't curse. But my mom, I heard her curse one time with one of my boyfriends. She hated him. But I think it's because he looked a lot like my dad.
Oh,
Plus, he was a player. He had a little sports car. He was a little bit older than me.
oh yeah.
And
You have
she
not
could,
said one thing that's good other than looking like your dad. If your mom didn't like your dad at the time, then that's not good. But yeah, no, we didn't like this little man.
so he would come and pick me up. And he knew she didn't like him. And so he would mess with her. He was real charming. And so one day he came to pick me up and she waited for him. I said, I'm getting ready to go in a few minutes. Isaac is coming to pick me up. She waited for him by the door. And,
Ooh,
and that's the only time I ever heard her curse, literally. She opened the door and he tried to reach out to hug her and she pushed
uh-huh.
him back and she said, UMF. I'm like, oh, mama, that's my boyfriend. Don't talk to him like that. He said, if you don't get off my property, she said, you can go out there and get in the car with him, but he cannot come in here and he cannot be on my property. You park your car on the street, and if you want to go out there with him, you can. I was like, oh my God.
Oh
Oh
my
my God.
God.
But he really took care of me when my dad passed. She didn't know that part. He was a player and he was cute and he wasn't bad, but she would call him a con artist. I said, no, he's not conning me. I'm going because I want to go. Um, but but that's the only time I heard her curse. But other than that, she would bite her tongue. She wouldn't. She would sit in the chair and say, and and another thing, Nick, I would always get her out of trouble. She was always signing up for stuff and getting, or like email. She'd get an email and sign up for something and pay money, or see a commercial on TV and pay money, and then when I come home, she would be sitting in the chair. And I said, "What's wrong?" "Oh, nothing." And she said, "Do you know that this resort took $450 of my money?" And I said, "Well, how did they do that?" "Well, I stayed at this hotel and they told me if I wanted to hold on and take a survey. So I did. And then the next thing I know, they telling me I could do a resort thing. Could you get my money back?" So I would spend hours and hours getting money back, getting her credit card reversed
Yeah.
because
Well, that's
she
child.
wouldn't listen.
That I mean,
That,
heck, we get fooled. We get fooled. All ages of people get fooled, but that's one thing.
with the
That they
elderly.
get. Yes, 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 and that is so
And,
horrible.
and so I wanted to tell her before we closed that I told her over and over and over.
Stop buying stuff on the phone, Mama.
Right, right. I told you over and over and over and over and over. Stop it.
So, okay, so before we leave, what age did you turn when you realized that you sound like your mama?
Uh, really, really now, but no, before
Hmm.
that, because I would do her voicemail on her phone, and people would think it was her. So it's
Well,
probably
not just from sound, but like from things that mama said, right? So like
oh,
I
as
feel
far
like in
as
my 30s I started sounding like I started repeating those
oh
things that
yeah,
mama said all the time.
right. Well, I vowed that I would never say some of that stuff. I was like, I am not going to, because I asked Ashton, what are some of the things I said? I say, and he couldn't think of anything. But I vowed, I said, I will not say some of those crazy things like my mom, because she would say Walmart, and I said, Mom, it's Walmart with a T. You don't see the T on the end of that? Or she would say San Antonio. She would say tacos. She said, you know what I have a taste for? And we say, what? Tacos. I would love to have some tacos. And I was like, what are tacos?
She
So I
never
try to,
got anything. She never got anything that was like I'll call it circular. So part of the world, she never got it right. The names of artists, the names of movies, the names of cars. She had
right.
An Audi 5000, and there was a point in the world where Audi 5000 was a phrase to tell people goodbye. So I
Uh-huh.
was leaving out the house, and I said, "All right, Mama, I'm Audi 5000. What you doing with my car? You better not be taking my car."
That
Oh,
is too funny. Well, I don't know if you've ever heard of a Mercedes, but
a
my mom,
Mercedes?
I think she's the only one that had a Mercedes. They said, "Look,
Absolutely.
I've got a Mercedes." I'm like, "Really? What is that? A new kind of car?" Oh, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh my gosh. Well, we love them so very much, man. We love them and we wish them the best day in heaven on Mommy's
Right,
Day. And then, of
right.
course, all the moms out here, not just the moms, but the ones that are mom-like to people, all of that. We wishing you a huge and wonderful happy Mother's Day, and we hope that you have a fantastic weekend.
Because it's gonna be awesome. Moms are awesome. We have a big, big job to do, especially now. And so, the world has changed a
Mhm.
lot, since we grew up in, neighborhoods where you knew all your neighbors and all your neighbors knew you
Right.
and your mommy and your daddy. And so we wish all of y'all from TAN TV and ISSB happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Ciao. And thanks